Hello and welcome to another session of BizTalks. And today we're doing something completely new and unique, something and an industry we've never covered before. We're going deep into the world of the voice and sound. Now, this guy has a voice like silk and is an absolute pro. It's great to have you on the show. Kevin, how are you?
And now for something completely different.
I was expecting something like that. How are things going?
Going very, very well, thank you. Surprisingly, with lockdown, it's actually been a bit of a resurgence in the continuation in the industry, where a lot of people have had to suddenly go online, and they've realized, hang on, I can't really do videos with my voice, so I need someone else's. So it's actually been quite profitable.
No, for sure. Well, before we delve into that, let's find out about you and more about you as a person. Where are you from? Where were you born? Where did it all start?
Well, I was born with 80% of my generation at Mowbray Maternity Clinic in Cape Town. I've lived here pretty much all of my life, except for 1 year when I was in the Air Force Choir. The Canaries, Suid-Afrikaanse Nasionale Weermag Kerkkoor en Konsertgroep. That was back in 95.
Okay.
I was there in Pretoria for a year. And other than that, I have lived in Cape Town pretty much most of my life. Done a little traveling around the world, but Cape Town is very much home for me.
It seems to be stuck in your blood. At least you can call yourself a true Capetonian. I've only been in the area
Dikte gebore Kaapenaar, a thickly bred Capetonian.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad you translated as well for the international audience. Okay, so run us through school, varsity. What was little Kevin like?
The problem is, I don't think I've ever been little Kevin. Even in high school, I was 6'4", 1.94 meters tall. So I was the second tallest person in my school, and the interesting thing about me in school is that I was the only boy in the high school choir. Well, at least until the end of grade 9, because I basically in that year my voice never broke; it just slid. So I never got the crack in my voice. It just 1 year I went first soprano, second soprano, first alto, second alto out the choir, which was annoying, but it was it also helped gain me a somewhat of a, what shall I call it, a reputation at the school, and also the fact that I did, my subjects in high school were English, Afrikaans, math, science, music. So I did 2 instruments, and I was told that I was the first student at Bergfried High to get a 100% for music oral. So in other words, somebody taps you a rhythm and you tap it back exactly, things like that. So I discovered early on that my ear was very good when it came to musicality and listening for inflections and differences and things like that, which has proved beneficial later on. But it was reputation building at the time.
All right. So again,
and not necessarily in a positive way.
So high school was tough for you. It sounds
high
the same.
School was very tough.
Tell you what, you say you were the second tallest in your school. I've been a shorty McShorty my entire life, so I was the shortest in the school. So the other end of the spectrum there.
Well, I shall look down on you for it.
Fantastic. So sound is at your core, and there's a lot of musical side of things. So in terms of music wise, we're talking to you in the space of Hey Abbott, and as a voiceover and a sound solution for people. We're going to get more into that a little bit later, but let's talk about your music a little bit. Do you still sing? Are you still doing music?
I do. I played piano since the age of 4. My parents, I still remember my mom telling me the story that I apparently taught myself how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb at the age of 4. It's not quite Bach or Beethoven, but you know. So they decided to get me lessons, And I was one of those very, very sneaky individuals that my piano teacher in high school would say to me, so which of these three pieces would you like to play? And I would say, what do they sound like? And then he would play them for me. And then I would make my decision as to which one sounded easiest and which one I could already remember the best. So I wouldn't have to practice as much. But so my ear was always, backing me up a little bit. But I've been a musician my entire life. I'm very much eclectic. So I'll listen to everything from smooth jazz to swing to hard rock to pop, even going to little Ozzy and Ozzy Osbourne and the likes. So it's the musicality of it that I appreciate, and some of the metal guitarists are some of the best guitarists in the world. I'll even admit to listening to quite a bit of country.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And country music, yeah, Nashville, all of that. It is some of the heart of music as we know it, and how music's developed and grown over the years. And so I think for everybody, see, this is a tricky one for me to do because I'm a former radio presenter and voiceover artist myself. So it is a tricky one for me because sound is something I'm very passionate about. So it's easy for me to resound with you on this, but let's take it from this point of view. To you, what does sound mean? What does it really mean?
Sound is connection. There's a way to connect with somebody without the physical contact. Body language is a large part of communication. The next largest part of communication is your vocal tone, your sound. When you don't have body language, for example, when you're doing a voiceover or a telephone call, vocal tone is the next thing. It's everything in that conversation. Your content is a certain amount, but the majority of that now falls to the sound. And people make connections over sounds. They make assumptions over sounds. When I speak to people over the phone and they meet me, most often people think, oh, I thought you were like, short and stocky because your voice was so deep. So and they make an impression of you based on the sound that you give. And most people do that. We make impressions based on visual. We make impressions based on sound. We just don't realize it as much.
No, for sure.
So it's really about connections.
Okay, so using sound to connect with people, and I suppose it's also a way, in terms of communication and the very basics of communication is it's how to convey a message in a great, effective way, really.
Well, this is the thing, the difference between, and I like thinking of it this way. It's the difference between having a voice talent and a voice artist. A voice talent is someone who's got a nice voice. Their voice sounds great, but that's what you get. It's not like they can do more with it. They can alter it. They can change it. They can do whatever you want with it because they can't do things like this because it is not in their range. But when you have a voice artist, you can speed things up, slow things down. You can make your voice much younger, or you can make your voice much older. These, different additions to your voice. And that's the difference between just having a nice voice and being able to use your voice in a particular way to convey a particular meaning or a particular emotion.
Yeah, and this is a theory I've always believed heavily in. If you think of all your senses, I still believe that sound is the strongest sense of them all because it is one that you can never switch off. You even still hear while you're asleep, if you think about that.
Yes, and the fact that, eyes can deceive, but, you can... a person can talk to you with a straight face, but you can hear in their tone that there is something awry.
Nefarious. So, Kevin,
I like that.
Nefarious. Say it again. Nefarious. Kevin, tell us more about Hey Abbott. What is Hey Abbott?
Well, I have a very, very dry sense of humor. And I was watching Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is we're men in tights, tights, tights. I love it. And essentially, there's the one scene where the abbot is walking through the town square. By the way, with my surname Abbott, the abbot's walking through the town square, and everyone's greeting him. Good morrow, Abbot. Morrow. Morning, Abbot. Good morrow. Morrow, Abbot. Good morrow. And then there's this one guy. Hey, Abbott. And the abbot doesn't turn, doesn't look, doesn't acknowledge. He just rolls his eyes and he's like, I hate that guy. And he walks on. And I thought, oh my God, that's so me. So yeah, I've never really been one for rah rah, even though I am a professional MC. I try not to incorporate rah rah, and I don't jazzercise when I am an MC with the audience. So that was, hey Abbott, just sounded right. And now a lot of my clients, when they meet me, they're like, hey Abbott. Like, hi.
Yeah.
So it does catch.
I'm not going to lie. Every time I speak to you now, I'm going to go, hey, Abbott.
Dude. You and I are gonna have words.
Yes. Yeah.
But that was essentially the start of the formalized part of my business. I have been a voiceover artist now professionally, earning money for it for 18 years, since I started in volunteering at a community radio station 18 years ago. And it basically just snowballed from there. And then at the beginning, I've had it in one or other version for those 18 years. But then at the beginning of this year, I thought, no, I'm going to formalize this. I'm going to do this properly, professionally, full time. And Hey Abbott was born.
Yeah, well, I think that brings us to a very good elephant in the room that we need to discuss, because you're sitting in a dark corner with an ominous light shining on you. Yes. Is there any specific reason? Should we be scared, or is that just your studio?
Hello, Clarice. Yeah, no, yes, it is we are currently sitting in my studio, which is why I've got this beautiful, sexy microphone sitting in front of me.
Okay, so you got a great professional setup. What all does Hey Abbott offer? What solutions do you provide?
The first, it depends on where you want to, where you require me, because I am quite versatile in that sense. But let's just start with the one that everybody knows, and that's radio adverts. So radio, TV ads, if you need something which is voiced, the voice behind it, then I can do everything from hard sell to soft sell, from insurance to corporate supermarket, whatever it is that you need. So the voiceover for the advert or the commercial is the one. The other thing that I do quite a lot of is corporate videos. So that would cover everything from explainer videos to product videos, training videos, HR videos, when you need to do an introduction to somebody who's new to the workplace and the HR person doesn't feel like they want to sit there for 6 hours. They can give them a series of training videos and I can voice those. Documentaries are something that let me put it this way. There comes a time when everyone finds that one thing that they absolutely love to do. And someone recently commented that I sounded very much like the next David Attenborough. So that's essentially where I want to go, is doing documentaries for television and lifestyle programming, which I think I would do rather well.
Ah, good. Documentaries are definitely a winner, and there's a good big market for that as well. And what else? I'm sure there's more.
But wait, there's more. I also do Verimog videos now. By the way, did you know that the 3 wise men in the nativity scene were actually the world's first Verimog salesperson?
I'm not sure I'm okay with this joke, but let's carry on.
They brought gold and frankincense, but wait, there's myrrh. Thank you so much. No, audiobooks as well. I'm also a professional audiobook narrator. I recently did a children's audiobook for an author in Wales.
Oh,
That was called The
fantastic.
Hungry Hamster Who Ate the Moon.
But it was very, very sweet when the hamster had to talk.
So the children loved it.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So, obviously, like you said, and you touched on it earlier, you're not just a guy with a really good voice. You've been doing this for 18 years. You take it very, very seriously. You've got a professional setup. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Why would anybody hire you instead of somebody else?
For a number of reasons. The first is that my voice is naturally authoritative. It's just with the depth and the resonance and the clarity. It's a voice that people, without blowing my own horn, generally like to listen to, or that's what they've told me. So it is nice to listen to. The other benefit is that not only for the local market, but for the international market as well, I have a very international, neutral accent. So in other words, South Africans think I'm from England, Brits think I'm from South Africa, so which basically puts me somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic without a paddle. But essentially, that means that I can, wherever you are in the world where you speak English, you'll understand me. Because New Yorkers can't understand the Scots, and the Aussies can't understand the Irish, and well, nobody understands the Geordies. So, it's basically wherever you go in the world, if you speak English, you'll be able to understand what I'm saying, which is great if you want a solid single voice for your marketing. And that for me is when I came across that thought, that's what initially in my mind led to my slogan or tagline, which is giving voice to your vision, because voice is everything. And if you have that single voice through your campaign, especially if you're an international brand, that only strengthens the image, the audio image that brand brings across.
That actually touches on almost a nerve for me, because I'm also passionate about sound. I'm also passionate about its place in the world, and I'm a marketer. So I think an area that a lot of businesses and companies and brand strategists really miss out on is exactly what you've just touched on there, which is audio branding. Do you think audio branding has a place? Do you think it's important?
I think audio branding is everything. If you consider with the biggest brands in the world, like, for example, Ford, or, Paco Rabanne, or some of these, they have a voice that they want to, they choose a voice specifically because that voice is going to be representative of their brand. So if you've got the new Ford Ranger truck, for instance, and it's hard body, it's off-road and all the rest of it, you don't want somebody who sounds like they're 23 years old and they're talking about this fantastic truck which is going to take you everywhere. You kind of want someone who's going to sound like they've been out in the dirt, and that's where they're going, and that's where they've been, and they're happy there. And by the way, this truck's going to get you there. It's the sound that they have. Who's that actor? The actor with the mustache, the narrator in the Big Lebowski with Sam. He's the old wizened narrator. He's got the mustache in the Big Lebowski. I can't remember his name now, but Sam was they used him as the voice for the Ford Ranger trucks in the US. And that was absolutely perfect branding, because his voice just conveyed an authority, an age to it, wisdom, but also had the grit and the gravel of that off-road that they were looking for in the sound of his voice. So by grit and gravel, I mean, this is a normal voice. This is a voice with grit and gravel. So the difference there made everything click into that branding image. So that voice was everything.
No, definitely. And I think I've seen it internationally, and I've also seen it specifically in South Africa. So businesses, here's a little tip. There are some very famous voiceover artists that everybody uses for everything. Absolutely everything. There was
including locally as well.
Correct. There was a phase here in South Africa that every single corporate video was voiced by exactly the same person. And he's phenomenal. He's a great voiceover artist. I take nothing away from him. If you listen to some of our radio stations, they also use the same American guy who sits in his setup's amazing. It's a funny little barn thing outside, and he records hundreds of these all over the world. He also does a lot of the movie trailers. But you're not differentiating yourself in any way. You just sound like any other company that could hire the popular voice. So just between us, my advice is actually go out there, do a bit more research, and find a voice that connects with your brand. It doesn't necessarily have to be Kevin here, but go for that diversity as well. Obviously, we're trying to promote you, and I didn't. But you understand what I mean. Everybody keeps using the same voice, and in the context of audio branding, if you're using the same voiceover artists as everybody else, you're not differentiating yourself. So it is something for companies to keep in mind.
And I'm going to jump back on there to something that I said earlier: is when you're doing your research, make sure that you have a voice artist, not a voice talent. And I'll tell you why. I have a friend of mine who owns a studio, and there was a company that wanted to do a 30-second radio ad, and they brought in, he asked them, do you want me to get a voice artist for you? And they said, no, it's fine. We have Jeff from marketing. He's got a really nice voice. So Jeff from marketing came on, and, first time in studio, came in, took the script. He had been practicing for a couple of days, got into the studio and read the script. Now, remember, it's a 30-second radio ad, which means that it has to be 29 seconds. So he got in there and he read it the first time, 38 seconds. And then they said, okay, can you speed it up, please? So, he read it faster, 38 seconds. And then they said, well, try put it with a bit more energy. Maybe that'll, help speed you up. He read it with a bit more energy, 36 and a half. And they tried everything they could to get poor Jeff to, give the result that they wanted, the performance that they were looking for. And unfortunately, Jeff just couldn't vary his voice because it's not something that normal people practice doing. So eventually, after 2 hours in studio, at which point Jeff was at his wit's end, and his voice sounded like rubbish because it was strained. He's not used to talking for that long. The studio engineer said, can I call my voice artist? They said, sure. So I got the call. I arrived there 20 minutes later, walked into studio, had a look at the script. I saw that it was long, because when you've been doing it for a long time, you can see just by looking whether something's going to be long. And I said, can we change, can we shorten this or contract this sentence a little bit, and instead of saying .co.za, can we say .coza? Little things like that, which just kind of trim it down. I went into the studio. I read it the first time, 32 seconds. I said, okay, great. Let me hit it again. I read it again, 30 seconds. And when he took out all the breaths and everything in between, it basically came down to 29 seconds, which was exactly what they wanted to do. I walked out of that studio 5 minutes after I walked in. But they paid for 3 hours worth of studio time, all because they wanted to save on the voiceover fee.
So yes, that is a big one within the industry that I know as well. Why must I pay this much for somebody to voice over 30 seconds of content? I mean, really? But you've actually illustrated it with a beautiful example. That's 3 hours of studio time. Studios are a lot more expensive than the right voiceover artist. Let's all be honest with that one. And you're paying for that 18 years of experience. That experience to walk in, look at a script, and say, "Great, you've got probably the best copywriters in the world, but you've written for written reading, not for written spoken." There's a big difference. Copywriters, please listen to me on this one. Don't write for reading, write for speaking. There's a big difference, but anyway. But it's that experience. You are able to go in, look at it, provide a solution, and cut down on that time. So there is a reason why that's there.
Absolutely. There is no, and you're not only paying to have the speed in the studio, but you're paying to get the performance out of the artist that you're looking for. And the performance is absolutely everything, because if you know, something that I can do is I can read the same sentence 5 times in a row, and I can read it exactly the same way 5 times. I can replicate what I do. And I can change the inflection on one different word each time so that it's exactly the same, but I emphasize a different word each time. And that is what a voice artist can give you, in that they provide you options. When you're sitting in the studio, you now have options to say, oh, I really liked it when he said the most value as opposed to the most value. You know, the change of inflection can be everything in the final product.
Definitely. And also in saying that, you can do the same sentence, like you said, five times, exactly the same, different inflection on the different word in the sentence. Or the other thing that you can do is, because often companies they've got an idea and a concept, but until they've heard it, they don't know exactly what they want. You could also provide
most of them don't.
5 different sounds to that entire sentence. Like you said, a hard sell, which actually maybe give us an example of a hard sell.
A hard sell would be, while other companies just talk about it. No, let me get that right. While I'm trying to leave out the company. While other companies just talk about it, we actually do something about it. Like Rama Margarine, only $49.99. That's hard sell. It's there. Buy. Exactly. Whereas opposed to soft sell is more, when you come to the end of your life and you need to know that your loved ones are taken care of, we make sure that we do that for you. That's a soft sell. It's an easy, listening, compassionate sale.
Exactly. And you need to also have those options to find the right fit for what it is that you're trying to do. And I do think, actually, let's go down this road. We've just arrived at it. Say I'm a company. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, we got to do something different this year. We got to stand out. Maybe it's an idea to do some voice content or a podcast, or create a video with a voice to it. How would you recommend, and the advice you would give to companies on how to approach that process?
The first thing that I usually ask a company, you know, by this stage, I've usually got the script in front of me. But even if they haven't started yet, my first question is, what is your tone? Are you wanting happy? Are you wanting sad? Are you wanting serious? Are you wanting fun? Are you wanting vibey? What is it? Because that is going to inform what kind of voice artist you want. Do you want a guy that's really kind of up there and he's got lots of energy and this is the way he talks? Or do you want someone who has been around a little bit longer and is kind of, you know, just giving the facts of the matter? Or do you want someone who's a little more serious and is giving the movie voice? Everything is... It alters and it changes depending on what you're trying to get across. So I would say, when you're writing, keep the tone in mind. What tone do you want? And then make sure that your language matches that tone, because that's going to make it, that's going to bring the synergy together, and it's going to make it sound like I hate using the word, I always think of milk and cheese, but it makes it more homogenous, more synergized, a synergy between all the different elements of the voice. And then once you've got that, then find the right voice artist who's going to do that for you. Is it going to be male? Is it going to be female? Is it high? Is it low? What are you looking for? And then try and find the right one. And there are lots of voice banks out there that you can go to and use. And you can, if you have a friend who is a producer in a studio, they've usually got a short list of preferred voice artists that they like working with, because they know they can deliver. And if you ask them for, I need a a young female with lots of energy, no worries. I know exactly the person. I'll book her for the studio. And that's essentially something that you need to bear in mind. It's not just all about the copy. And as you said, make sure that you are writing for it to be read. And the easiest way to do that is to actually read it out loud.
Yeah.
Because they're often, when I go into a studio and I'll say to the copywriter who might be there, or the client, this is not a very manageable sentence. It lends itself to stumbling, and it doesn't sound like it flows. Can we say this, or are you pretty stuck on the wording? And sometimes it's the wording that they want, and you just have to go with that. And, the final result is the final result. But sometimes you can have the little bit of leeway to talk with them and to say, listen, if you say it like this, it flows a bit easier. And when it flows easier for the reader, it flows easier for the listener as well. It's less jarring. And that overall sense of peace at the end of it, with the least amount of jarring, that's what you're looking for, because people want to have a sense of, at the end of either listening to something, or they want a sense of, I need to do something. But if they've been jarred, they're kind of thinking more about the jar than they are about the end result.
Yes, and for it to flow. So that's also the value add that you give with your years of experience, is not only just a pretty voice, but the ability
I literally have a face for radio.
And I did heard that one many times. Yes, everybody, that's not a funny joke. We've heard it before. Moving on. No, but it's not just a good voice and all of that, but it's with your experience. You can work with the script and find out from the client what it is really their objectives are. And
a lot of that is the interrogation, the interrogation that you're talking about. When they say, when you go to a job interview, it's not just you being interviewed, you're interviewing them to see if you want to work there. It works both ways. And part of that is, I don't like the word interrogation of the client, because it's a little bit hardcore, but you need to find out from the client, what are you looking for? What is your tone? What's your speed? Who are you talking to? Are you talking to businessmen in their 50s, or are you talking to a housewife in their early 30s? Your tone might be slightly different for each one. So you kind of need to ask the client for what they're looking for.
No, definitely. And it's engaging with the client rather than interrogating. Yes. There's maybe a nicer way of looking at it, especially coming from a guy sitting in a dark room. Speaking about the dark room, something a lot of people don't realize is with the advancement in technology and where things are now, you don't necessarily have to rent out a studio, have a sound producer, etc., etc. Professional voiceover artists like yourself have the production skills, have the experience, that they can actually just send you a script. You've got your own home studio, and we're not talking about a guy with a little gaming mic who thinks he can record. We're talking a full-blown professional setup with professional software, and that cuts some unnecessary cost and time for the client, and that's something that you do offer.
Yes, it is. There is a benefit to being in a professional studio, because especially if the client wants to be in on the recording, to be able to direct, then it's great to be able to sit in a booth with a glass window between you and the engineer and the client can talk in between takes, and they can give you some direction. But if you don't have that facility, then someone with a home studio is fantastic. The reason I have this wonderful what do I call it? The shining light on me from The Shining. The reason I have this is because the studio is quite recently built, and as a result, I haven't added the lighting frames to the frame yet. So it's still a little dark. But the reason that I have this is because very often clients want to Skype in while I'm doing the recording, so they can listen in and give direction. And it's difficult to do that when you are sitting with your head stuck in a wardrobe. And let me tell you that a lot of audiobook narrators, which is also something that I do, audiobook
Indeed.
narrators very often record in their closet because it's natural. The clothing provides natural dampening of the sound and the reverb, and you're in a small little space. So you're basically sitting in a chair and your head's stuck in the closet and you're recording for however many hours you record an audiobook for. So, but that's not necessarily conducive to having a Skype call with
No.
a director. It doesn't look very professional. Sounds fantastic, but doesn't look professional. So that's one of the reasons why I've gone and I have created, or in the process of finishing off this booth.
And look, when setting up your own home studio, something most people won't think of is you actually have to think of the lighting itself, because some lights actually emit a sound, and you don't want your that to come through in your recording.
Fluorescents generally do
correct.
that, but fortunately, like today, your LEDs, they run on silent. Just be careful if you're going to, for example, have a dimmer switch, which does create a little bit of an electric buzz.
But those are all elements that you have to take into account. And also what
Which
I
I
heard,
have.
what I heard there is you've said on the one side, it's great to have a studio because the client can be there to help with directing, but you've also innovated to make it possible that the client can be there with you while you're recording, to have a level of input as well.
The only difference between being in the studio is that when you are in the studio, you are listening to it through studio speakers. So you're really getting the quality, whereas, very often if you're doing it via Skype, you're getting a limited quality audio. So you can hear the tone that he's creating and that you're happy with. Whether it's too excited, no, tone it down. You get the Ritalin. So you can hear the basic differences and you can get the feel that you're wanting. And then once you eventually send it through, that is, you can hear it properly with your headphones and you can hear what's actually done. The nice thing is, because of the fact that we are sitting very much in a lockdown situation and it's difficult to get in studio and have people around, and also because of the fact that I do quite a lot of international work, is that one of the value adds that I do is that with every recording that I do for you, you get one free revision, because obviously you can't be in studio. So you can come back to me and say, that was fantastic, but can you do it with a little bit more energy than what we initially said? So I said, sure, you get your free revision. Let's get it done. And that's just I think that's common sense in terms of value addition.
No, for sure. Right, Kevin, let's chat. We've gotten to know you. Companies are keen to book you. How do they go about it? How does the process work?
Well, it's quite simple. You can get in touch with me via email. You can get in touch with me via WhatsApp if you've got my numbers. heyabbott.co.za is the website you can go to. All my contact details are on there. And I have very competitive professional rates, and which basically are for up to 1 minute, 1 to 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And if it's longer than that, then we talk on a sliding scale on a per job basis.
Okay, great. So they'll give you the scope of the project and you'll work with them and provide a quote necessary.
Exactly. And every project is different. Every quote, there are certain things which are standardized. And, a project, a 30-second radio ad is a 30-second radio ad. However, for example, if you want me to do 3 different voices on the radio ad, that's might be something different. You're asking for something more than just what your average 1-story voiceover would, require. But then again, it's on a per case basis, so we can, we talk.
We'll work it out.
As they say in real estate, everything's negotiable.
No, fair enough. Okay, well, when we post this, we'll obviously give all your contact details and tag you and everything. Before we head out, you and I can shoot the breeze for many hours because we're passionate about the same thing. But before we head off, anything that we haven't covered, anything that you've always wanted the opportunity to share, what would that be?
It's not so much things that I haven't had an opportunity to share. It's just when I talk about doing voiceovers, it's easy to see the passion that I have for being a voice artist, but to actually have the opportunity to say, man, I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. Being able to, I came up with the line, giving voice to your vision, as my tagline, because it means that I can help you make your vision a reality. And man, that's something powerful. When you send a client the final result and they're like, in fact, I had a voice note yesterday, and the guy was like, "Oh, dude, man, you nailed it. I flipping love what you did, mate. That was absolutely down the line, smack bang, perfect." And that's virtually verbatim what he says, a gentleman from the UK. And when you get a voice note like that in return, you're like, "Oh, that's it right there." It made the difference to somebody's business. And if I can have a part to play, a lot of people go into business because it's about the money and they want the financial return. But if I can make your business more successful, if I can streamline an aspect of your business, for example, HR product training videos or something of that nature, then that for me is just, that hits home and makes me happy.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's also the difference between a voiceover and a voiceover artist is an artist puts a little bit of themselves into it. And I don't think people realize that. And there's a lot more
how much
passion.
of themselves they put into it.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot more investment when you're a voice artist than just having a nice voice.
No, for sure. Kevin, we're going to chat again soon. I look forward to it. Wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us on BizTalks. And I'm sure we will be hearing your voice more often.
I hope so. Thank you, Chris. It was a real pleasure.